Welcome to the Barrier Breakdown, Disrupting Mental Health podcast, where we talk about the clinical and practical issues that face those working in the mental health industry.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Barrier Breakdown. My name is Erin Molyneux-Bailey. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Cognitive Behavior Institute, and my co-host, Dr. Kevin Caradad, who is the CEO and owner at Cognitive Behavior Institute. Today, we are discussing how meditation each day can help fight off cancer and COVID-19 with Vijay Chandran. Vijay is an assistant professor of pediatrics and neuroscience in the University of Florida College of Medicine. And let's start the conversation today, Vijay, with if you could share with us a little bit about how you became interested in studying meditation.
Yeah, okay. So, my interest is I would say partially a personal interest. So I was introduced to something called inner engineering like 10, 11 years back. My wife introduced to me about this technique. I was, more into research at that time point, doing a lot of animal research and disease-oriented research. I was not much keen into trying, and so, but she told she gave me an push that, okay, you try this. If it works, you keep it. If not, just move on. So that was the initial take that she told, okay, just try it and see. It's just 20 minutes a day. So I tried that technique, which is offered right now as inner engineering. I tried it and it worked well. It worked really great for me. Not only my productivity increased, my health, my focus, and everything enhanced. Whatever my output, it enhanced dramatically, even with relationships, everything. So I thought okay, there's something there. And then I turned into the scientific literature to look what's really happening when you do this. And since being a scientist, I wanted to know what exactly happens when you do it. And it was very sparse. The literature out there was not exactly telling what happening, but most of the research was done based on survey-based research, telling that anxiety is reduced, stress is reduced based on those psychological scores. So that was it. But mechanically, what exactly happens within the body, that was not there. And so I think so that made me to conduct this research, I would say, in collaboration with other investigators. Yeah, so it's basically personally somebody introduced to me. I see the benefit, then I want to know what exactly happens. So that's the short story there. Yeah.
Okay, great. And how many people were involved in your research? And was there any other kind of circumstances about that you studied, such as a vegan diet or sleep schedule, et cetera, that came into play?
Yeah. So are you talking about the people who conducted the research, or who people was involved in the research?
So why don't you tell us, we can talk a little bit about both, how big the team was.
So this is basically, in collaboration with the Indiana University, Harvard University, and University of Louisville. And of course, in collaboration with the Isha Institute of Inner Science, where we conducted this. So, so because it's a large scale study, more than of nearly 400 samples were collected from 100 participants. So it's a large scale study. So we had to have a collaborative effort. So most of our collaborators helped us to collect the blood samples from these participants, and then it was shipped to our lab, and we did the genomic analysis on them. It's a collaborative work. And so we approached the Isha Institute of Inner Science, which is present in Tennessee, to ask them to permission to do the study, and then they allowed. And most of the participants who were there were happy to be involved in the studies, but we had some limitations. So we had approximately 100 participants. We tested in 4 time points. One is 3 months before, one is just before the retreat, and the third time point was after the 8 days retreat program, and the other one was 3 months. The last time point was 3 months after the retreat, and then we analyzed the genomic study. So yeah, so one of the biggest, the largest genomic studies in meditation space, I would say. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about for how this relates to fighting viruses?
Yeah. So we did like 4 time points, right? So we collected the blood, and this study is a very unbiased study. So what we did is like we collect the blood samples from individuals, and then we measure the gene expression level of all the genes present in the human genome. So basically, you measure the expression level of all the genes, and then you see what those data says, right? So it's not that you measure few biomarkers which you know might be regulated due to meditation or any activity, and then you correlate with that. So this is basically, you measure everything possible,
Can you speak
right?
to a little bit about, I think it's going to be important to understand the expression piece. So what's the importance of
Right.
measuring what is expression of a gene, and what are you measuring specifically?
Yeah, so basically, the genes are the, all the DNA is coded with the genes. Different pieces. So humans approximately have, 25 to 30,000 genes, and these genes code for proteins. And so the proteins are the ones which do the function in your body. So, for example, if you take a sugar, it's split it into carbohydrates, and then it used as energy for your for your body systems, and all these different mechanism is due to the activity of these proteins, which are encoded in these genes. So every gene in your body has a function, right? And then so what we do is like, if we measure the levels of these genes, by measuring the levels, then you can say that, okay, if the genes involved in like immune system, if they are high, that means your immune response is really in a very good state. If you have genes involved in any other mechanism, for example, they are genes for your other digestive process, and those enzymes, if those enzymes are high, then you can say it's basically, you measure. If you go to a doctor, you go and do a lipid test, right? And based on that, they will say you how is your liver function, right? So here in the research, what we do, you measure all the genes, the expression level of these genes, and then each genes has a function, right? And then you can say, okay, so these genes which are involved in this particular function are increased, hence your intervention is doing that, right? So you can correlate that. So what we did was like, we took the blood samples and we measured all the gene expression changes in one time point. That is example, if I, before the meditation, I give my blood and people would test all the genes, what's the level, like probably gene A is 10%, gene 2 is 20%. Then after meditation, again, they take blood from me and then measure the expression of gene A and B. Then so if it's 10 and 20% again, then say, okay, there's no changes in those genes. But if it goes to 100% or 50% or whatever is that, then you say, okay, it's increased, or it can go below, it can decrease. So doing this, like, this is like, I'm talking in each individual genes, but there's a technology which is called RNA sequencing. You can do like measure the gene expression level of all the genes at once, so in a high throughput way. And so we did that for time point 1, time point 2, 3, and 4 for 106 individuals. And so now we have this massive 70 million data, and we took this 70 million data points, and we did a systematic analysis, bioinformatics computation analysis, and try to identify what's happening in them. Yeah. So that's where that's kind of a background of the experimental setup what we had. And then I can, if you have any questions on that, we can touch on that.
No, I think that was very helpful to give a little bit more context. Thank you.
Yeah. And using that piece of data which we got from these meditation practitioners, and we went on to analyze them. And what we found is like, to the question previously asked, like, so how is the immune system? So what we found is strikingly, because this is very important. You don't assume anything before you test them. You want the data to tell what's happening. And when we looked at the data, we found 200 30 genes specifically involved in the immune system were higher after meditation. And these genes are, we know that all these genes are directly involved in immune response. So when these genes are really in a good shape, and your defense mechanism for any virus is good, right? And so that's what those genes function. And so we took that, and one part of those 220 genes, 30 genes, also included interferons proteins. So those are a separate important category of proteins which fight viruses. First, if you get a viral infection right now, your interferon signaling will go really high to eliminate these viruses. And that's what we found. I mean, that was one big finding in these data, but we also found other functional pathways also were activated. But this was the biggest, signal what we saw. Yeah. Yeah, I'll pause there and I'll continue if I want. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah. So if I hear you right, a lot of what you're seeing is overall specific cells. I should say the genes are producing in a much more efficient way that would produce, at least the thought process is better health outcomes. So better response, immunity to what viruses and such, as well as just functioning in general, and kind of correlating that with the mediation.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna say, how often does one need to meditate in order to achieve these results and to see this type of improvement?
Yeah, this is a great question. So what we saw was we wanted to look at this is remember, this is just 8 days of intense meditation. So this retreat is very intensive. So basically it's like 10 hours of meditation with vegan diet, and they have a very strict sleep pattern, and they have same diet and same environment. All these things, we know it changes the gene expression, and that's why we conducted this study, because it's a short duration, 8 days, but intensive. We wanted to see what happens there, right? And so we saw this dramatic changes, and now we are looking into see, okay, this, if you do in engineering for 20 minutes. So basically the beginner's practice, what Isha Foundation offers is called inner engineering. That is 20 minutes per day. And now we are looking into that. So if you do a 20 minutes meditation per day for a very long time point, probably for a month, do you see the same gene expression changes? That's what we are asking next. But that's ongoing. We don't know exactly what happens, but based on the practitioners' feedback, if I have to guess, I would say definitely those changes are happening in long term. But just we wanted to make sure, we get, because you can't control this kind of a study, large study, for a month. Everybody has other things to do. So that's why we had this 8 days. But if you have to do for 30 minutes and at a longer time point, that'll be very interesting to test, but we have not yet tested that. Yes.
So if I heard you right, this intensive meditation was also in conjunction with the sleep structure and nutrition, correct?
Yes. They all had a vegan diet, right? And they were also told to be in vegan diet before the 1 month of the retreat. So when they came, based on the survey data, 90% of those participants followed a vegan diet. And time point 1, they were vegan diet. Time point 2, 3, they were all vegan diet, and that's what the survey data says. And then for 8 days, they were in the same environment in Tennessee, in the same, and they all went. The sleep pattern is very. This retreat is very controlled retreat, and they for 8 days they are in silence. They meditate for 10 hours a day, and they sleep at the right time, and they get up at this.
Some of the thoughts that came up in relation to that is, I hear you saying that prior to even getting to the study, they were all supposed to be on vegan. Because my thought process is how much of the vegan diet itself was part of the positive expression, but you controlled for that beforehand. How about the sleep? Were you able to control for the sleep prior to, and how much that was a factor?
So for time point 1 and time point 2, even before that, they were in vegan diet. So we compared time point 1 and 2. We don't see much gene expression changes. and we showed that in the paper, and suggesting that the gene expression changes due to the diet was very minimal, and it was all because of meditation. That's one point. And then based on the sleep pattern, we looked at also the cardiac gene expression changes. So when your sleep pattern is disturbed, these genes will also get differently expressed. We looked into those specific genes which are involved in sleep activity, and we showed they don't dramatically change between before and after. And so that's how we control for this. And we addressed that in the paper in one section. So suggesting that the immune gene expression changes which are changing in these participants is not because of the sleep, the diet, and sex. But we had 50% male and female, so we also ruled out all those different confounders, and we proved that it is like 99% is because of the meditation practice itself. Yes.
The one you said 10 hours a day, everybody was doing meditation?
Yeah, so it's a program. It's not like there's they have different modules. So I would say around 10 hours for sure. Yes.
And how much time are they spent awake during that 24-hour period where they're meditating for 10 hours?
Yeah, I think so. For even it's a routine, a daily schedule for like what we having, so they get enough good sleep, and it's basically daytime. I don't know the exact time, but roughly. I also was involved in the retreat, not this year, but several years back. So it's not like crazy schedule. It's just like you get up in the morning, night, and you do that, and it's most of the time it's a guided meditation kind of stuff. So you don't go and fall asleep, and then after that it's 10 hours of yeah, roughly I would say.
Because I did hear you say that even outside of meditation, everybody is still going to be silent, correct? Kind of quiet.
Yes. No further communication or something like that. No outside world. Everything is cut. Yeah.
Is that still considered? So if you're awake, not in the traditional kind of format you have of that 10 hours approximately of meditation, outside that though, there is still some level of mindfulness, as I'm gathering, because they're in silence. Do you think that also should be considered under that piece and its impact?
Yes. I would say, you can't really tease out what other confounders are affecting, but definitely there should be some influence. But we also show that, so the whole program is like, it's designed like that, right? And so, but the major impact we are pretty sure it's because of the intervention per se. But I would definitely say there might be some, but very, very negligible effect due to the silence and stuff like that. We can always have a control population which they just don't speak and test that. But we don't. To see that dramatic changes in immune system, it's I would say it's very unlikely. Yeah.
I'm with you. I think it's exciting. This is research is going to go to, it seems clearly towards the path of, what's the right dosage.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of response, and it's good because people didn't have exact scientific evidence to show, see, this is what is happening. But everybody knew, because these techniques are there for like more than several thousand years, I would say, right? And if something is staying that long, that means it's purely because of its efficiency, right? If it doesn't work, the next population, the next generation wouldn't use it. So if it's there for such a long time, it's worked, and that's why it's there. But we don't know exactly how it worked. And now we are trying to tease out, like trying to understand how it works. And now, since we have these evidence, and probably people will turn around and appreciate that and try to bring that in their life, because it really helps everybody. Yeah, whichever. Mental health and your body. These two big things. For these two, I would say yoga and meditation has a solution.
All right, and just kind of closing the loop on the mental health piece. So what are some suggestions for maybe some folks who don't currently incorporate meditation into their life? Obviously, 10 hours a day may not allow you enough time to do your responsibilities as an adult or
for sure.
a person. But, I'm sure that incorporating, a bit of this as you go does still have some positive effects.
Yeah, definitely. So, so this was just purely to show research based, definitely even, I mean, nobody can do that 10 hours, but just this is to show that the immense of effect is happening here. But you also have to see that once they took this 8 days, 10 days, but most of the changes also were there after 3 months. So it's basically, it has a prolonged effect also, right? So once you have this intensity, you have this. So for people who are coming beginners who has no much experience of meditation, there are like several tools which this Isha Institute of Neuroscience also offer, which is something is called Isha Kriya, which is 15 minutes free online tool. Anybody can use that. And that is also people have our collaborators have done some research and show that the effect of that. And there's several tools out there. But personally, I tested these techniques, and that's why I could suggest, but I can't vouch for other techniques. But there should be several techniques. But one of the profound technique, which is Isha Kriya, and people can try that. It's 15 minutes, and if that is like free of cost, people can do that. And if there's seriously interested folks, also can check Inner Engineering. That is 20 minutes per day. And it's also offered online. People can stay at home and do it. And so I would suggest these two techniques for people who wanted to try something out. And I was like this before I tried it. And if it didn't work, I would have moved on. But for me, it worked well. And so everybody has to try and see if it will suit them. It'll work for them. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this information. We definitely look forward to your future research and hope to stay in touch.
Okay, thank you. So,
anyway. And thanks so much to our listeners of The Barrier Breakdown. We hope that you stay safe and healthy out there, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to The Barrier Breakdown, Disrupting Mental Health. Listeners can find all of our episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. For more information and to learn about upcoming continuing education events, check out our website, cbicenterforeducation.com, our Facebook pages, Cognitive Behavior Institute and CBI Center for Education, as well as our Instagram at Cognitive Behavior Institute and our Twitter at CBI_Pittsburgh. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We hope you'll tune in for another guest next week.